Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try, your ex still lingers in your mind like a ghost you can't exorcise? It's not just nostalgia, it's psychology. Once you understand the science behind that emotional pull, you'll never look at love or heartbreak the same way again. If you're ready to break free from the past, reclaim your peace, and understand the deeper patterns shaping your relationships, make sure to hit that subscribe button. More powerful insights like this are coming. Truths about love, attachment, and emotional freedom that will completely transform how you see yourself and others. Don't just move on, level up. Love being a chemical addiction might sound dramatic, but science proves it's very real. When you fall in love, your brain doesn't just feel, it reacts. It floods your system with chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. Dopamine gives you the rush of pleasure and excitement whenever you're around your partner, or even when you think about them. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, is released during hugs, kisses, or intimacy. It builds trust and attachment, making you feel emotionally safe with that person. Serotonin helps regulate your mood, giving you a sense of balance and happiness. Together, these chemicals create a powerful emotional cocktail that connects you to your partner on a deep, almost addictive level. When you're in love, you literally become high on that person. You crave their presence, their touch, and their attention, just like an addict craves their next fix. Now, when the relationship ends, your brain doesn't automatically switch off those chemicals. Instead, it goes into withdrawal. That's why breakups feel like emotional pain. It's not just heartbreak, it's chemical deprivation. The same brain regions that light up in drug addicts experiencing withdrawal are activated in people going through heartbreak. You find yourself thinking about your ex constantly, replaying old moments, stalking their social media, or even imagining reconciliation. It's not weakness, it's your brain desperately trying to restore its chemical balance by seeking out the person who used to provide that rush. This is also why the no contact rule feels so torturous at first. When you cut contact, your brain goes into panic mode. It's like denying an addict their substance. You'll experience cravings, emotional highs and lows, and obsessive thoughts. But just like addiction recovery, this stage is temporary. Over time, your brain starts to recalibrate. It learns to produce dopamine and oxytocin from other sources: friends, hobbies, self-care, and new experiences. That's why people who stay strong through the no contact phase eventually find peace and clarity. They're no longer chemically dependent on their ex for happiness. The reason many people mistake this addiction for love is because both trigger the same emotional intensity. You miss your ex so much that it feels like proof that you still love them. But often it's not love. It's your body craving a chemical pattern it got used to. Once you understand this, you can detach without guilt. You realize that healing doesn't mean you never love them. It means you're learning to stop chasing the chemical comfort they once provided. In essence, breakups are not just emotional separations, they're biological detoxes. And just like detoxing from any addiction, it takes time, patience, and discipline. The more you resist the urge to get a fix by reaching out or reminiscing, the faster your brain rewires itself. Eventually, the cravings fade, the memories lose their power, and you begin to feel whole again. Not because you replaced your ex, but because you finally broke free from the chemical chain that once kept you tied. After a breakup, one of the most deceptive tricks your mind plays on you is selective memory. It's the reason you start missing your ex even when the relationship was painful or toxic. The brain has an incredible ability to filter memories, and when it comes to lost love, it often focuses on the good times while blurring or minimizing the bad. This is not an accident. It's a psychological defense mechanism. Your brain wants comfort, and reminiscing about the happy moments gives you temporary emotional relief, even if it's not based on the full truth. You start remembering the laughter, the sweet texts, the moments you felt loved and secure, but conveniently forget the arguments, the emotional distance, and the nights you cried yourself to sleep. This imbalance of memory creates a false narrative, convincing you that you lost something perfect, when in reality you lost something human, flawed, complicated, and imperfect. This selective nostalgia is part of why breakups hurt so much and why so many people struggle to move on. When you remember your ex, you're not remembering them as they were. You're remembering them as your brain wants them to be. The mind loves patterns and familiarity, and it clings to the feelings that once made you feel alive. This is why you might suddenly think about the smallest, most random details, the smell of their perfume, the sound of their laugh, or how they said your name. These sensory memories are tied to powerful emotional responses that make your past relationship feel vivid and real again, even if it's long over. But those memories are like movie scenes. They're edited highlights, not the full story. Selective memory also explains why people often go back to their exes even after being hurt. The brain tends to suppress negative emotions associated with pain to protect you. It's easier to recall the good times than to sit with the discomfort of betrayal or heartbreak. So instead of remembering why things ended, your mind replays the affectionate moments and whispers, "Maybe it wasn't that bad." This illusion creates a false sense of hope that reconciliation will bring back the happiness you once had. But it's not your heart that's doing this. It's your brain trying to relieve emotional stress by reaching for familiar comfort. Breaking free from this psychological loop requires awareness. The next time you find yourself romanticizing your past relationship, remind yourself that you're remembering a version of it filtered through nostalgia. You're seeing the highlight reel, not the behind-the-scenes reality. It helps to write down the reasons the relationship ended, the times you felt disrespected or unloved, and the emotional toll it took on you. When you bring those truths back into focus, the illusion starts to fade. Over time, as your emotional wounds heal, your memories will become more balanced. You'll still remember the good, but you'll also acknowledge the lessons learned and the pain endured. That's when true detachment begins. Not by erasing your memories, but by seeing them clearly without distortion. Only then can you move forward without being haunted by an idealized version of your ex that never truly existed. One of the most powerful reasons your ex still has a hold on you is because of unresolved emotions. When a relationship ends, it often doesn't end cleanly. There are loose ends, questions left unanswered, feelings left unspoken, and wounds left unhealed. Maybe you never understood why they suddenly changed, why they stopped caring, or why they gave up when you were still trying. Maybe you wanted an apology that never came or closure that never arrived. These lingering emotions don't just disappear when the relationship ends. They stay stored in your subconscious mind, replaying like an unfinished song. Every time you think you've moved on, something small, a song, a scent, a place, reopens that emotional file, pulling you right back into the past. Unresolved emotions are powerful because the human mind craves resolution. We are wired to seek meaning and completion. When something ends abruptly or painfully, the brain struggles to process it. Instead of accepting the loss, it keeps searching for answers, for understanding, for that missing piece that could make the pain make sense. That's why you catch yourself overanalyzing old conversations, rereading messages, or imagining what you could have said differently. You're not obsessed with your ex, you're obsessed with closure. But closure is rarely something the other person gives you. It's something you have to create for yourself. Guilt and regret are two emotions that make this process even harder. You might feel guilty for your mistakes in the relationship, or regretful for not seeing red flags sooner. These feelings can turn into mental loops where you replay the past over and over, trying to find the moment where it all went wrong. On the other side, if your ex hurt you deeply but never took responsibility, resentment builds up. That anger becomes a form of attachment too. You think that by holding on to that anger, you're protecting yourself, but in reality, it keeps you emotionally tethered to them. Both guilt and resentment are chains disguised as coping mechanisms. They give you something to hold on to, even if it's pain. Healing from unresolved emotions requires acceptance, and acceptance isn't about approval, it's about acknowledgement. It's saying, yes, this happened. It hurt. But it's over now. You can't change what was said or done, but you can change how you carry it. Sometimes closure doesn't come in the form of an explanation, it comes in the form of peace. It comes when you stop needing them to validate your pain and start validating it yourself. Write down what you wish you could have said. Let the emotions out without judgment. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means freeing yourself from the emotional debt that person still holds over you. The truth is, what keeps you stuck isn't the loss of your ex. It's the emotional debt left unpaid. Once you face those feelings honestly, the grip they have on you begins to weaken. Healing starts when you accept that closure isn't something you wait for. It's something you choose to create. Attachment styles play a major role in why your ex still has a hold on you, often without you even realizing it. The way you connect, love, and respond to emotional distance is deeply rooted in your attachment style, which usually develops in childhood. It's shaped by how your caregivers treated you, whether they were attentive, distant, or inconsistent. These early emotional experiences become the blueprint for how you form relationships as an adult. When a breakup happens, it doesn't just trigger sadness, it can activate those old wounds you've been carrying your whole life. That's why some people seem to move on quickly, while others feel stuck, anxious, and unable to let go. It's not about how much you loved your ex. It's about how your attachment system reacts to loss and rejection. For people with an anxious attachment style, breakups feel like emotional devastation. These individuals tend to base their sense of worth on being loved or accepted by their partner. When that love is withdrawn, it feels like losing a part of themselves. Their mind starts racing with questions. What did I do wrong? Are they seeing someone else? Can I get them back? This obsessive thinking isn't about logic, it's about fear. Their attachment system is in panic mode, desperately seeking reassurance. They may check their ex's social media, reread old texts, or even try to reestablish contact just to feel a sense of connection again. But each attempt only feeds the cycle, keeping them emotionally dependent. On the other hand, those with an avoidant attachment style appear to move on quickly, but they often suppress their emotions rather than process them. They might distract themselves with work, casual flings, or isolation, convincing themselves they don't care. But deep down, the emotional bond remains. Because they fear vulnerability, they avoid dealing with the pain directly, which keeps it buried but alive. Then, months later, when they least expect it, the suppressed emotions resurface through dreams, sudden memories, or random sadness. Avoidant individuals aren't immune to attachment. They just delay it until it catches up with them. People with secure attachment styles, however, handle breakups differently. They can grieve, reflect, and still hold their self-worth intact. They understand that love can end without it meaning personal failure. But for those who aren't secure, heartbreak feels like emotional chaos. It's not just about losing the person, it's about losing safety. Recognizing your attachment style is the first step to breaking free from your ex's hold. When you see that your pain isn't just about them, but about your inner patterns, you take back your power. Healing then becomes an opportunity to rewire your attachment system, to learn self soothing, self validation, and emotional independence. You realize that love shouldn't feel like survival, it should feel like peace. The moment you stop seeking security in others and start building it within yourself. No ex, no matter how powerful the bond once was, can hold control over you again. When a relationship ends, one of the hardest things to deal with is the loss of identity that comes with it. During a relationship, you don't just bond with your partner, you build an entire sense of self around being with them. You become part of a we. Your habits, routines, and even the way you see yourself become intertwined with theirs. You were someone's girlfriend, boyfriend, lover, or partner. And that identity gave you a sense of belonging and validation. When the breakup happens, that version of you disappears. You're no longer their person, and that can leave you feeling empty, lost, and unsure of who you are without them. It's not just about missing your ex, it's about missing the version of yourself that existed when you were with them. This identity loss explains why so many people feel disoriented after a breakup. You might start questioning everything. What you like, what makes you happy, or even what your purpose is. Maybe you used to love certain things because your ex did, or your lifestyle revolved around shared goals. When that's gone, it feels like a part of your foundation has been pulled out from under you. You start asking, who am I now? That confusion isn't weakness, it's your mind trying to rebuild your sense of self outside the relationship. But it's in that rebuilding phase that people often get stuck. They mistake the emptiness of self-loss for love, thinking, I can't live without them, when in reality, what they can't live without is the identity they formed around them. This loss also ties deeply into self-worth. When your partner validated you through attention, affection, or admiration, it reinforced your value. So when they leave, it can feel like your worth left with them. That's why even confident people can spiral after a breakup. The validation they relied on externally suddenly disappears, leaving an emotional void. And instead of looking inward for that validation, they instinctively look back to the one person who used to provide it. That's why you might find yourself craving their approval again, even if you know they weren't right for you. Your brain is simply trying to rebuild the version of you that felt accepted and enough. But here's the truth. That version of yourself still exists. It was never something your ex gave you. It was something that came alive within you. Relationships can bring out beautiful parts of who we are. Kindness, passion, vulnerability. But those qualities are yours, not theirs. Healing from identity loss means rediscovering yourself piece by piece without needing another person to define you. It means building a new life where your happiness and worth come from what you create, not who you're with. Eventually, as you start exploring new interests, meeting new people, and setting new goals, you begin to feel that sense of self returning, but this time stronger. You no longer need your ex to remind you of who you are. You become whole again because you've reclaimed your identity and with it, your power. That's when the emotional hold truly breaks. Not when you forget them, but when you finally remember yourself. Repetition compulsion is one of the most subtle yet powerful psychological reasons your ex still has a hold on you. It's a term from psychology that describes our unconscious tendency to repeat familiar emotional patterns, even when they hurt us. In other words, you may keep getting drawn back to your ex or people like them because your mind is trying to recreate an old wound in hopes of finally healing it. It's not logic, it's psychology. Deep inside, your subconscious wants to rewrite the ending of your emotional story. So instead of letting go, You cling to the same type of person or the same relationship dynamic, believing that this time it will be different. But every time it ends the same way, you're left wondering why you can't escape the cycle. This pattern often starts long before adulthood. Our earliest relationships, especially with parents or caregivers, shape how we understand love and safety. If you grew up feeling unseen, neglected, or constantly needing to prove your worth, those emotional experiences get imprinted in your subconscious. As an adult, you may be drawn to partners who mirror that same energy. Not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. Familiarity feels safe even when it hurts. So if your ex was emotionally distant, inconsistent, or controlling, part of you might unconsciously equate that behavior with love. Your logical mind knows it's unhealthy, but your emotional memory tells you this is what love feels like. That's why even toxic relationships can feel magnetic. The pull isn't about love, it's about unfinished emotional business. When the relationship ends, your mind doesn't see it as closure, it sees it as failure to fix what went wrong. So you stay emotionally hooked, replaying the relationship in your head, imagining what you could have done differently, or hoping for a chance to make things right. You're not trying to get your ex back, you're trying to heal a wound that existed long before them. They just became the canvas on which that old pain was painted again. Breaking free from repetition, compulsion requires deep self-awareness. You have to ask yourself, what am I really chasing? Often, it's not your ex's love. It's your need for validation, acceptance, or emotional safety that you didn't get in the past. Once you understand that, you stop trying to heal through another person and start healing through yourself. This means facing the painful truth that the love you're searching for can't come from reliving old trauma. It comes from giving yourself what you never received before. When you finally see your ex not as the one who got away, but as a reflection of an old emotional pattern, everything changes. You stop blaming them, you stop blaming yourself, and you begin to understand. That awareness breaks the cycle. You learn that love isn't supposed to feel like proving your worth. It's supposed to feel like peace. The moment you internalize that truth, your ex loses their grip on you, and you free yourself not just from them, but from every pattern that ever made you mistake pain for love.